Alright, we're gonna go over the exercise ball hip series. So we're getting our hips moving in multiple different directions using the exercise ball and a wall. And I just have my rack, but I'm gonna use just the flat surfaces to get the ball rolling with my hip. So the first two we're gonna do are just kind of widening and narrowing the pelvis. So what you wanna do, and with all of these, you want to stay squatted. That's going to allow your hip to move. If we're tall, our hip kind of gets locked in, and that's more of an end range or finishing spot. But we want that hip movement to put us in the direction we're going to go. So start off squatting, putting the middle of the exercise ball right on the head of the femur. So right where the leg bone meets the hip bone. That's where we want to put the exercise ball on. So I'm nice and squatted. I'm getting nice and close to it. All right, so then from there, I can kind of just push my hip into the ball. All right, you'll really feel it working right around the head of the femur. Pushing the ball into the wall. Notice it's not moving my leg. It's really trying to get my hip moving into that ball. So that's just kind of widening the pelvis or the hips, and then we're gonna also work on narrowing it. So classic here, you're just squeezing the exercise ball, but really focusing on pulling in at the hip. All right, and if you're doing this correctly, you'll notice on the feet, you gravitate toward the inside edge. So as I widen out, I get to the outside edge, and I bring those hips in, I get to the inside edge of my feet. That's just kind of the chain reaction with that. So we did widening, we did narrowing. Now we're gonna move that pelvis up and down. All right, so get into that squat and get good pressure into it. And now we're just lifting that hip up, pushing that hip down. It's not in the leg. Again, if I were doing this with my leg, you'd see my foot moving. We really wanna just keep our joint angles and focus on just moving at the hip. All right, there we go. Next up, we're gonna move the hip forward and backwards. So if we're running, that hip comes back, one hip comes forward. So now we're gonna do that here. Again, get into that base position of squatted and centered on the ball. And now my hip's coming forward and backward. All right, try to keep the upper body aligned so you're not turning. All right, and that'll tend to rotate at the pelvis. We want to stay squared up as best we can as we move that hip back and we move that hip forward. All right. And so now the last one we're gonna do, we're gonna turn at the pelvis, and we'll feel different kind of pushes now with this grounded leg. So now as I turn, I rotate that pelvis. Again, my upper body is staying with the hips. So now I do wanna move that upper body, and then I get here as well. You'll notice you're pushing differently with this grounded leg. Pushing off different spots of the foot, and that's right where we want to be with that one. So that's rotation. And there you go, run through those, get a good feel for them. You only need a few reps each side, but after you're done, your hip should feel a lot better, ready to go, and nice and buttery. So there you go, that is the exercise ball hip series.